This is Ushashree working as manager at Manage CIA, and I once again welcome to all of you to our 197th webinar, Streamlining Operations for Growth and Expansion of Agri-Startups. So to talk upon this today, we have one vibrant personality, Mr. Rajiv. He's an agri-industry veteran and a passionate leader, leveraging his 3 decades of professional experience in helping organizations solve complex business challenges sustainably and profitably through strategies which build successful partnerships and empower teams to contribute to their best. He is currently founder CEO of Agri Innovations LLP. Rajiv is recognized professionally for his impactful and pioneering contribution in different industries like agri inputs, farm machinery, and engineering with globally respected organizations such as Cargill Seeds, Mahindra and Mahindra's, Bayer Crop Science, etc. Initially, Rajiv was part of initial Cargill Seeds to introduce Cargill's hybrid corn and sunflower in the country. As part of Mahindra and Mahindra's Shubalab team, he introduced the concept of one-stop shop for farmers and laid the foundation for advanced farm machinery business. With these key contributions, he has contributed to agricultural growth. With this short introduction, I now welcome you, Rajiv sir, to our 197th webinar. Thank you, sir, and handing over to you.
Thank you, Usha, for that introduction. I think, can you project my slides? I'm not able to see the slide screens.
Yes, sir. Sir, if you are comfortable, you can share from your side. Otherwise, if you have any problem with that, we'll share from our side.
So here you go.
Yes,
Let
sir.
me know if you are able to see the slides.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Yes, sir. It is there. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thanks for taking this webinar to the next level, wherein you are talking about now scaling up the startups after the idea is born and the product or services have been gone through the various iterations. Now you're ready to launch and build some revenue. And scale up is one of the most critical stages. And I would say from my experience that this is the stage when the fate or the future of the startups is decided, whether they will be able to survive and whether they will be able to attract investors, and will they be able to add value to the entire agribusiness ecosystem. So this is the stage where all these decisions and outcomes would be judged. So to help you maneuver through a very complex phase of startup journey, here are a few, experiences which I would share, and this would be probably some six slides or so, a very short presentation. What I would urge for each of the participants is listen to the discussion or listen to the presentation carefully, and I think you will have access to all these slides later on. So don't worry about noting down what's being shown on the screen, because there'll be a lot of points which would come out of the real life experience into building and scaling up startups. So as I jump into the topic, and I have now almost 14 minutes to roll on, I'll straight away go to the first slide and talk about why scale up is so critical for the journey and why it is the turning point in the fate of a startup. So one of the things which each of the founders, co-founders, or leaders in the startup space would recall is the purpose for which they built the business or they started the startup. And from there, they would recall the vision and impact they had thought they will bring to the farmers or to the entire agri economy. And that's the reason, you'll need to scale up because you want your vision to really make an impact during the startup's lifetime. And this is one of the most ambitious stages you want to cross and want to become visible and be remembered as the most impactful startup ever. The other reason why you really need to think through about the scale up journey is that this is the time when, the operations would expand beyond geography from where you started your pilot. And this is the time when your customer base would increase, your resourcing requirement would increase, and hence you don't want things to fall apart while you are running. So far you were jogging, now you will be running here from here onwards. And that's the reason you'll have to really worry about each dollar, each rupee, which goes into the investment of building and scaling up the startup. And that's the more of a reason why you want to look at efficiency and productivity of every rupee which you spend. The other thing you'll need to really think about while you scale up is at some stage when you started the journey of building your own startup, you were probably bootstrapped or funded, or maybe there were grants and all that, which is so essential to really get you started, what we call the initial fueling stage of your business. Now, as you move up, you will really need to think about what is your profitability roadmap. So it won't be, you won't have that luxury that you continue to burn money, but you will have to start talking profitability because this is the stage where as the things expand exponentially, your burn rate would change, your business model may go through attrition, and you may start building team and putting infrastructure in place. And that's the reason you'll have to talk about profitability. And this is one word now the investors are really keenly looking at. What's your profitability roadmap? Moving on, I think the fourth point is very clearly stating that you need to build processes at this stage, and you don't want to do a hustle. I mean, the initial stage is over. Now you are becoming a large startup, moving towards organization, building an organization, and you don't want to lose control over things on a day-to-day basis. So hence you're putting in processes and systems so that you stay focused and you really contribute in terms of what's the vision you had put forward to. So you will start looking at automating things, more delegation, putting systems and processes, documenting few key learnings, and so on. Also, as you build your business, you won't be able to boil the ocean all alone. You will need a team and you will need to attract talent. And why would somebody who's who has a potential to contribute and to make an impact to your business, why would he join you unless and until you show him that your organization can really add value to the talent who joins you in terms of career growth, in terms of learning and experience, in terms of more value that the individual can create by joining you. So you'll need to build an image of, so that you become the employer of choice. And I think I already mentioned about the whole story of profitability now becoming so relevant, and the whole process of or the roadmap of creating the profits at some stage in the journey. The investors would be really keenly looking at you while you're scaling up in terms of what are the leadership skills you are showing up as you scale. Are you moving yourself from a founder to a CEO? Are you, or you still stuck at the initial stage of a founder, right? I'll explain this point about building competencies at the later stage. And I think one of the most important thing why we do business is all about making an impact in the economy and wealth creation for various stakeholders. So these are the reasons why a scale-up stage becomes so relevant and important for you. Let's look at now the challenges, during your scale-up journey. While you will have a lot of theoretical lessons, probably you would have gone through, read a lot of material, but everything boils down to these three critical points in terms of challenges. The first one is all about how are you building a business strategy which is differentiated and profitably scalable. So remember these three words. The strategy has to be differentiated. It has to be scalable, but profitably, right? And the other challenge you will need to address during the stage of scale up is, uh, you know, if you don't build collaborations and partnership at this stage, you won't be able to do all the work. You won't be able to bring all the resources which are so much required to expand your business. Hence, you'll have to look at partners who will see value in terms of coming with you. And for that, you'll have to create a value proposition. Otherwise, why would look, I mean, think from the perspective of if you go to a multinational and say, we would like to work with you, partner with you, and leverage your distribution to expand our reach. But why would a MNC give access to their distribution to you? Unless and until they see value you can create for them, right? And that is called a value proposition, which you'll have to build. And this has to be customized for individual collaborators and potential partners. So relevant for you to think about who would be the right partners and collaborators for you to scale up your business. And the third point I briefly mentioned earlier, this is all about leadership competencies. So when we set up a business, we have to do all the things with our own self. Maybe if there are two co-founders, the whole work splits between two or three of you. But then this is not sustainable. This will take you to the stage where you can do all the basic foundational work among the co-founders, take up responsibility and build the MVP and launch the product or the services or provide a POC for investors and potential partners to see. But then as you start looking at growing your business into multiples, then you'll have to find a way of creating leadership competencies, right? I mean, think of it from the point of view of a large organization. You will notice that most of the organization, they have shifted the leadership onus to a professional CEO, and the proprietor or the founder has stepped aside to think of strategic issues and leave the day-to-day topics to this professional CEO. So you'll have to gradually start building these competencies, which takes time. And for that, you need coaching. Remember, I'm not talking mentorship over here. It's about coaching. So these are the three things which basically the startups face as a challenge. And and if you start looking at the difference between a successful startup and a startup which could not succeed, you will find that these are the three key reasons which are responsible for the success. And to address these key challenges and to empower the startups, AgVisor was born to address all these 3 points, and you can Google or go to LinkedIn and search for AgVisor, the company which I'm building. And if there is any additional support I can provide in your journey, I'll be more than happy to collaborate and partner. Let's now shift to the higher gear and drill down to each of the topics, right? Uh, Remember, I talked about differentiated and profitably scalable strategy. Now, what is this? Recently, a company called Coup, which was very similar to what Twitter or X were doing, shut down, and it created a lot of flutter in the industry. Now, take that as an example, and there are many more in the industry which talk about uniqueness of your business model, uniqueness of your strategy, right? And if you are not able to differentiate your product and services, and you just become another player in a large market, probably you may build a business to some extent, but you won't be able to survive. You won't be able to, scale up beyond a, value. So that is what is uniqueness you'll have to create. Also, as I mentioned, the productivity and efficiency become so relevant. And from the investor's perspective, this is becoming very critical. If you are today, it's perfectly fine. Till a stage you may burn money, you will need investment, that is fine. You may be bootstrapped or you may be getting funds from somewhere. But then you'll have to create a roadmap to show that by date X, year this, month this, you'll be profitable. And for that, you'll have to showcase a plan that this is what all you will do to ensure that you become profitable by this date, this month, this year, right? So the third point is, basically for scalability, you need to be what we call replicable, which is all about creating copies of your model and basically spreading your success from a small geography or small segment to a larger one without failure, right? Saurav, I think somebody's raising a hand, so should we take the questions at the end?
Sir, we'll be
Yes,
taken up
at
at
the
the
end,
end.
sir, we will take.
Oh, okay, perfect. So if you have any burning question, please note it down, put it on the chat. We'll answer all your questions in the later part of both the presentations. We have dedicated 20 minutes for that. Right. Um, I mentioned the second point, you remember, about building partnerships and collaboration and why they are so important. Because you won't be able to do all the things alone. You want speed, you want efficiently to be seen as growing and replicating your business model, your product across geography and segments. That's the reason you need collaboration and partnerships. And of course, you need to showcase that you will be solving a key issue for the potential collaborator or partner. And for that, you'll have to not just identify a potential partner or collaborator, you'll also need to look at their business model. What are the challenges they are facing? And will you be able to provide a value proposition to a large corporate who would love to partner with you and say that, hey, I can solve this part of your value chain or business model or revenue system or a customer reach or whatever type of product or services you are into. That's the only reason you'll be able to, attract collaboration if you're able to showcase you're solving something for them. Also, you need collaboration because you can't put in all your money yourself. You will need to optimize the resources. So, for example, it's not very wise to build a national level distribution system straight away from the day you start scale up, which will take a lot of time, lot of money, lot of resources. You will need to put a lot of foot soldiers on the ground. Probably you may partner with a large distributor who is looking at an innovative product or a tech solution or a new innovative business model. That's what you will need to talk about to a partner collaborator. Uh, you need collaboration because you want to focus on your core area. If you are working on a tech space, in the agri-tech domain, you may like to just continue to focus on how do you improve your products and services further, and how do you help the farmers make more money, and want to focus on your business model. So you would need partners and collaborators who can do a replication work along with you, right? And of course, as a founder of a startup which is scaling up, you want to focus on innovation. You want to work on innovation in terms of product, processes, and business models or services, right? So that's where you need collaboration and partnership. The leadership competencies, the third and the most important one, and the toughest one, I would say. Um, Let me give you an example so that this becomes more clear. Um, so, just like any large organization, mid-size or large organization, there is something called a development roadmap for leadership, which means all the senior guys, they have to go through various developmental training programs or coaching programs, So here you are. I mean, you may be a young founder, you may be a young professional, or a person who moved in from a different industry to start your own business and startup. You will need, as you move in the journey of building your startup, you will need to have competencies, which basically are a CEO's competencies, right? And some of the example, what are our CEO's competencies are? I mean, if you go and talk to, say, a leader or a senior manager of a multinational whom you want to partner, you should be able to articulate and share your vision of what are you trying to do with your startup. And if you are able to do that well, you will have a buy-in of a shared vision from your partner, and hence a foundation for a successful collaboration would happen. So this is so relevant. The other thing is, if you are building your business and moving into a full speed scalable proposition, then you would need to have a lot of foot soldiers, middle level managers, somebody who can take care of the operations, somebody who can take care of the supply chain, and someone who can do marketing and branding and various other stuff, depending on what business you have. So you'll need to attract talent. And if you want to attract talent, your leadership presence in the industry should be groomed to such a level that people would love to look at you and say, I want to work with this founder because he is doing such an exciting stuff and such an interesting work. So with that kind of image and competency, you'll be able to attract talent. And now, these are all outcomes I'm talking about. There's a process to reach over here, right? And 20 minutes being 20 minutes, these coaching sessions run for months. So I won't be able to cover everything over here, but give you a gist of what is so relevant and important for leadership, building leadership competency. Now, look at the fourth point, another very relevant one, that when you were a co-founder or a founder working with 2 or 3 people, uh, you had you you could have very clear communication, access to each other, sitting in a room, doing discussions and all that. But imagine your team is spread out across states, right? Uh, you can call, video call, or whatever, but then you also want to build a culture which is very unique to your organization, right? And this culture you will have to build from the day you are setting up your business, whether it is between 2 or 3 of you, or as you move ahead in hiring people at various levels, replicating that culture among them. And this becomes the found. I mean, if you think, you'll be recalling great companies which people talk about. They have a great work culture, they have a great environment. I'm sure you would be like to be looked at in that light. And for that, it takes years to build a culture, right? So better start early. And the other point, I'll have to speed up now. The other point is about decision making, right? Most of the time, startup founders, co-founders, or leaders do not have all the data required to make a decision. So you'll need to take decisions based on what we call loosely gut feeling, but it's not exactly gut feeling. What I call looking through ambiguity, looking through clouds, and taking decisions, which means with pieces of information, you are able to take very crystal clear decisions. That is a competency, right? And it has to be built over months and years. And this is one of the key competencies which a CEO has, right? And the last one, collaboration, I think I've spoken about it a lot, so I will not repeat it. Okay, I have to run through this slide, but don't worry. The topics which I've already covered, more or less, they fall under each of these, nomenclature. So I mean, whenever you want to scale up your operations and streamline them, you will have to take few factors into consideration. And some of the key ones are like, are you creating a product or are you creating a service? If you are creating a product, you probably need to set up, say, service centers, spares availability of technicians at a very short notice with the least downtime. And if you're working on a service kind of industry in agribusiness, probably you'll need to build up processes, automate many things. You leverage technology and all that stuff, right? So based on these the topics, you'll have to decide the kind of streamlining of operations you need to do, the kind of processes you need to put in place, right? Let's take another example. The type of customers and end user would also decide you what kind of streamlining and processes you need to put in place. If it is a B2B kind of business, you'll probably need key account managers. You'll probably need very high level of business development managers, right, who can engage, interact with senior leadership across the customer's organization, right? And if you are doing a B2C kind of, and there are very different models, right? I'll not cover all. I'm just giving a few examples to differentiate. If you're doing B2C, probably you need a very vast distribution, right? And or maybe a franchisee mechanism, so which would require different type of what I call templates for putting processes in place, right? Then you have many things like total cost of ownership for the customer. If it is a very high value product, a drone which is 8 lakhs, for example, or 10 lakhs, then
Sorry to
you
interrupt.
will also need to. Yes, doctor.
We'll finish within 2 minutes so that we have time for second
Of
speaker.
course.
Yes.
Yes, this is the last slide. This is the last.
Okay, sir.
Don't worry. So, yeah. So, things like what is the total cost of ownership? Sometimes we forget from the customer's perspective. We simply say, oh, we are selling him a 10 lakh drone, 8 lakh drone. But then what about the recurring cost, which is like replacement of batteries after 8 months, 1 year? What about spares? What about the service setup or minimum amount of spares, which consumables which are required? All that needs to be added to the cost of ownership, and then only you will be able to build a value for your customer by telling him openly and transparently that this is the total cost of ownership, and this could become a great differentiator, right? So there are many examples we can talk about it. As I said, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to connect on the LinkedIn and have a conversation or need any support. I've mentioned few more points which are all about deciding what kind of topics you'll need to consider to decide what will be the template of your operations, what systems you'll need to put in place, and what would be the decision-making matrices. So I think since I have a signal to stop, I will close over here by saying that build your future in EdTech and contribute to nation building. This is a great time to really make an impact in the country and make an impact to wealth creation and really, set up very successful startups. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the informative presentation. Like you have discussed why the scale up is actually important and like what are the challenges usually the people face during the scale up stage, and what are the strategies to overcome this challenges, and also you have discussed the leadership competencies, why coaching is important than mentoring, to have CEO competencies, and why the partnership and collaboration is really important. So I think this will be definitely going to helpful for the participants. So the questions will be taken up after the second speaker presentation, sir. So the participants, if you have any questions, you can keep in chat box, and or you can raise your hand. Questions will be taken up after the second speaker presentation. So to introduce our second speaker, let me call my colleague Pragya to introduce our second speaker.
Hello. Yes, thank you, Rahalya. And good morning, everyone. I am Pragya Mishra. I'm working as business executive at Manage CIA. As we move into the second half of our session, I am pleased to introduce our next speaker for today, Mr. Anupam Dasgupta. Mr. Anupam is the founder of Start Analyzed, growth partner for digital SMEs and startups that provides insightful solutions in marketing, strategy, sales, and training. He's also the founder of the Curated Circle, an ever-growing showcase of a select group of high achievers that assist startups and SMEs through mentoring and marketing initiatives. He's recognized as most influential MarTech leader at the World Marketing Congress in 2017, 18, 19, and 2022. He featured in Corporate Vision magazine UK as a corporate game changer. He's a published author with works including business articles featured in Times of India, The Hindu, New Indian Express, and Deccan Chronicles for literary pursuits. Mr. Anupam has a track record of enabling exponential growth for digital businesses with 2 decades of experience across India, the US, the UK, Singapore, Germany, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. He brings a wealth of global expertise to his ventures. So, with this introduction, I would like to hand over the session to Sir.
Thanks, Pragya. Hi, all. Good morning. Very insightful presentation by Mr. Rajiv. As it were, I don't have slides today, but I have kind of put my thoughts together on a note, which I'll liberally refer to during the discussion, just so it helps me collect my thoughts. So, scaling up and operational efficiencies to drive growth, right? So if you look at Strat Analyze, the company I'm scaling up is actually helping companies grow, right? So one of the things, and I love the way Mr. Rajiv articulated, right? So if you look at the scale up stage, right? So you have probably run the business for a year or two, and you're at a stage where you've probably if had some success, otherwise you would not have been there. But you may be also realizing that this is the time to either pivot or decide what you want to do next, right? So some of the fundamental pillars, and this is not necessarily only for agri startups, it is probably for all startups, is that you really need to relook at your value proposition and the competitive differentiation, right? So what is the value you're delivering for what target audience, and how do you kind of differentiate with competition, right? So at work I have this little bit of a, if I were to call, proprietary framework, which I say is a matrix of capability, competition, and market potential. So in any market, anywhere, any business, if you're running, if you imagine a simple Excel sheet with 3 columns, first one is capability, second one is competition, and third one is market potential. And if you scale every offering for every market on a scale of 10 for each of these 3 parameters, and then you do a simple addition, if you give equal weightages to all of these 3 parameters, you'll probably realize and find out that which of your offering is going to work best for which audience, right? So just to explain that a little more, let's assume you have a particular capability which is very high, but it's for a target audience or for a market where competition is also very high, right? And market potential is probably medium. So let's take high, medium, low for comparison, right? Whereas you have medium capability in another space where probably the market potential is huge and the competition is low, right? So that's what I'm getting to. So you would basically have to, at some point of time, figure out which is your best bet going forward, right? Now, that is not just an inward looking introspection, right? Because you've run a business for a year or two. So you know now you have a few data points which are very important, right? For example, what is the response so far from the market, right? What does the market say to your offerings, right? One thing is your assessment of your capabilities. The second thing is the reality check, right? What is the market saying? What is the market feedback for you, right? What worked, what did not, right? So when I look back at my business, right, and being very transparent here, in my journey so far, I always look back and see what worked, what did not, and what are the challenges, right? So if I were to contextualize the challenges in the realm of agri startups, you may look at operational challenges, right? So whether you're facing challenges with supply chain, logistics, processes, or is it that you don't have the right technology and resources, right? What with AI, IoT, drone, blockchain, everything in theory being applicable to, and by theory, even in practice, being applicable to agri startups, right? So we'll get to that in a little bit, but the challenges may be operational, technology, manpower challenges, right? Mr. Sharma dwelt upon the importance of a team, and a team is a team when you have a combination of number of factors, right? And I always say that the skill of your team is just one of the things, right? The other thing, the most important thing probably is trust, right? Are you building trust, or are the people who are there with you, they are really trustworthy, right? I had to turn off my virtual background. My PC gave a prompt that it's running on low CPU, so please bear with my fairly candid background. So now that said, operational challenges, technology challenges, manpower challenges, right? How do you really build a team, and how much of a team, right? Because you are running on a limited runway yet, assuming that you're bootstrapping or you've had seed fund, right? And then finally, which brings us to the financial challenges, right? So what kind of a runway do you have, or are you propped up or primed up to get external funding? How do you do that, right? How do you get access to that? Where does it start, right? So what I've spoken about so far is reviewing your journey so far in the first phase. In that process, kind of finding out the matrix of capability, competition, market potential, in which you take inputs from your own introspection, from the external feedback, and hence decide your journey for the future, right? What offerings for what audience, right? And what resources to put to each of the offerings, right? Assuming you have multiple offerings. Now, if that is level 1, level 2, the drill down are the challenges, right? What stops you from going there? So your operational challenges, your technology challenges, your manpower challenges, your financial challenges, right? So now I'll pause for a moment and step back and look at one of the good examples I was reading of Ninja Cart, right? So one of the things is a clear business model, right? Farmer to retailer model, right? Which, if you look at Ninja Cart's differentiators, right? For a moment, if you try to look at what do they try to differentiate with, right? So they have technology in their supply chain, which means that the use of analytics or real-time tracking makes them better equipped to deliver in terms of the supply chain and logistics, right? Besides the logistics infrastructure being fairly comprehensive and robust, which doesn't happen on day one, it requires investment, it takes time to build. But they have a clear business model also, right? Now, they also have used technology for demand prediction, quality control, right? Trying to, very recently, they've also come up with a farmer marketplace. So they're kind of building in the entire community from farmer to retailer. And along the way, they have built a model which is trustworthy, which is scalable, which is attracting partners, right? So what I'm trying to get at is that when you are reviewing your journey for the next step, for the scale-up phase, you probably have to also identify during the process of articulating your value proposition differentiators. You would also have to identify that what would realistically be your differentiators in the next phase of your journey, right? Because it's important to have a reality check and look at where you are, which also reminds me of a quote or a statement which I saw multiple times on LinkedIn yesterday, coincidentally, which said that as an entrepreneur, you are probably in a very bad space if you are where you were exactly 1 year back at the same space, right? And now, to me, that statement means a lot, because what do you mean by same space? It doesn't necessarily mean only the revenue you're making, right? There would have had a lot of learnings, a lot of evolution in your maturity as a business owner over the past 1 year or 2 years, which would also be a measure of where you are versus where you were, right? So using all those learnings which have happened during your initial phase is very important to make sure that you are not exactly where you were when you started, right? And that wisdom, that body of knowledge which you've built would probably prop you up for the next scale up journey. Now, I'd quickly touch upon a few points which were on my mind, which I jotted down. One is this entire space of agri-tech, right? Which there might be agri-tech startups here. There might be companies which make use of technology for agri purposes, right? So now, you of course have IoT sensors, right? Which could, we can go on talking about, sensors which help you get notifications on soil moisture, weather conditions, crop health. You can talk about AI and predictive analytics for yield forecasting, pest management. You can talk about drones, which help you, do the planting and monitoring of crops. You can even talk about blockchain, which I dare say might be a little futuristic right now, but it will create a traceability back to the in terms of the supply chain from where the inputs came in terms of the crops to the end product, right? So now these are some of the things which may or may not be accessible for every startup, but it is growing. It's more and more democratized. All of us know how much democratized AI is today, for example, right? So, I mean, it's become fairly easy than it was maybe 4 or 5 years back, right? So now that said, that's the technology part of it, right? So I want to stress on the fact that if there are agri-tech startups which are in any of these spaces, I think they have a bright future, and even other companies should look at using, who are not in the agri-tech offering space, using technology to better their positioning. Now that is one. The second thing which I want to talk about is the supply chain part, right? So where again you will have a lot of use of technology for supply chain and logistics, for tracking, monitoring, efficient route planning, transportation management, inventory management, right? All of that. Now, I have actually been following some of these other slightly lesser known tech startups also in this space. For example, and I forget the name of the company, but there was this company which is using computer vision and ML to kind of grade produce, right? When you have, as a farmer, when you have produce, you grade it quality category A, B, and C according to the shape, size, features of the, let's say, apple, which you determine by computer vision and by data analytics, right? So there's a lot happening out there, and some of you would have, or most of you would probably have even more dynamic use cases than what we're talking about here. Now that also brings us to the point of all this technology and scaling up is great, but there are two more things which are particularly important. One is the finance, right? Where do you get the finance to do all of this? So one is, of course, propping up your business fundamentals so you are more ready, probably more worthy of fundraising at the appropriate point of time, especially if you're in the product space. Secondly, the fintech space has come up fairly well for agri companies as well. So you can look at, I'm sure you already are looking at platforms or fintechs which can offer you credit or even other forms of finance so that you can get onto your journey, right? So now, in fact, I think fintechs are also offering insurance schemes for agri startups, which are fairly interesting. So that said, we come to the next part, which is probably the most obvious part of scale up, which is the market reach. How do you go to market, right? So now, like the previous speaker mentioned, it depends on the model, right? If you're B2B or B2C. But let's take B2B, for example, right? And then let's say if you're an agri-tech startup, right? So if you're an agri-tech startup and if you're in the B2B space, let's say you're targeting, let's say you have a farm to retail like Ninja Cart, you have a similar business model, right? So how would you go about it? You'd probably need a very comprehensive go-to-market plan, and which is where my company specializes in, and I personally have a 20-year experience in the go-to-market and marketing and sales space. So what you would need to understand is very clearly, again, go back to the value proposition, target audience, competitive differentiation, and try to craft that what offering will you deliver to what target audience, right? So I always say that marketing is actually three pillars: what you're offering, your target audience, and the bridge that joins you. The bridge that joins the offering and the target audience are the various channels through which you reach them, right? So if you're targeting retailers, for example, in a farm to retail model, how do you reach them? Where are they going to notice you, right? Is it by sending them emails? Probably not. Is it by directly calling them? May or may not be. Is it by being on Facebook or Insta? Probably. Maybe the retail owners are or their employees are on Facebook or Insta. LinkedIn, maybe not. Maybe this audience is not on LinkedIn as actively as others, right? What else do you do? You build a brand, right? The channels we are talking about are all in a way the different levers, right? So you step back and look at what your brand value proposition is, to what target audience are you catering, right? And you repeatedly institutionalize the value of your brand in the minds of your target audience. And before doing that, you have to take a step back and understand if you can define your brand clearly, right? A lot of startups, again, not just agri startups, and this is a day in, day out journey and problem I face with startup owners, is that they themselves are often not clear what their brand is about, right? So you have to clearly articulate what is your brand stand for, what are its attributes, what does a brand as a person or personality look like, what does it behave like, what value does it offer, right? Once you know that, will you be able to articulate it in various forms of content and then reach out to the channels and talk to your audience saying that, hey, this is what we offer, right? Now, in a space like agri startups, the story doesn't stop there, right? It probably doesn't stop for most businesses. For agri startups, it absolutely does not, because there's a huge health and security angle here, right? So after you build the brand and after the initial outreach and traction, which you've already had possibly by now, but you need to make sure that you're sustainable, right? That the quality of what you're delivering itself sustains the brand, because in the absence of that, your brand will fall apart, right? So it is very important for you to be aware of the quality, the processes that you're following, so that you are always on time, on quality, which means that your brand is sustaining, right? It is not easy to sustain a brand. One wrong story, as all of you know, in this space can kill a brand forever, right? So I think those are some of the other things which, and have to be aware of the compliances, etc. But those are some of the other things which really matter so much when you're scaling, right? Because you can have the right idea, you can have the right vision, target audience, value proposition, all of that, but it can all get spoiled in execution, which is what you have to be careful about, right? Now, having said that, coming to probably the last point, which is on manpower, which we briefly touched upon earlier. Again, you have to be, because of the sensitive nature of the business, you also have to be very sure about your processes while you're inducting manpower, right? And it's not just inducting. After inducting, how do you train them? How do you imbibe your brand values in them, right? And that consistency of your brand is going to be seen by the audience, through the people who represent you, right? So at all points of time, that is very important, right? So here were a few thoughts, which I kind of put together, and I thought I'll share with the audience today. I mean, that's about it from my end. Thanks for the time and the audience.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your insightful experiences and also being so transparent. You have discussed about why the skill of the team is important and also manpower. And you also told like challenges by citing different examples. And I like the point what you said, like it's not just a revenue, but how a business manager has to build up his knowledge. So I think this is definitely going to be helpful for the participants. So I think so participants, like if you have any questions, you can ask directly now. So both the speakers are available, or else you can raise your hand in chat box. So I think Govind Prasad, he raised the hand. Saurabh, please help me in unmuting him so that he can ask question. Saurabh or Usha ma'am, please unmute that Govind Prasad or Jayashree so that they can ask the questions.
अपना उसी से कपड़ा अपना खरीद लेते हैं। अब हर चीज में तो नहीं मांगू भैया जीन्स खरीदना, भैया शर्ट खरीदना अच्छा नहीं लगता है, तो क्या करता हूँ भाई अपना थोड़ा बचाना, सेव करो, उससे कपड़ा लगता खरीद लो, क्या लगता है।
Audio problem. We will take next participant. Sarad Pan sir, are you there? Mr. Sarad Pan.
Maybe they can address this. For a new startup, the attracting talent and retaining talent is a big issue. So how to tackle this issue for the new startup? Thank you.
Shall I, Rajiv, shall I go for it or you want to go for it?
You can take it, Anup. I'll add points if you miss out anything.
Okay, so question is around attracting talent and retaining talent for startups. It's a huge problem. You know, I'm facing it day in, day out, right? So, this is whole concept of employer branding, right? Which may sound like theory, but it isn't, right? So from day one, if you do the right actions in your own small way, initially you will find it hard to get right talent. They will come by slow, but the process is in the right direction. That's how I look at it. That's what I am doing. My limited success of hiring a fairly decent team has been because of the fact that I've probably stuck to the values that the brand stands for. And I can be transparent. The values are customer success is the first and the foremost value, because I think without customer success, the organization is will disappear very soon, right? So as soon as that goes out, that if that's in your DNA, please join us. If that's not in your DNA, please don't join us. That might mean people may not like to join, but I think that is a clear clarion call initially. Secondly, what do they, from their point of view, what do they learn being part of the journey? By being in a startup, the level of responsibilities they can take even at a younger or lesser experience is going to be much more than they'll take in a established startup, right? The established company, sorry. They may or may not be monetarily compensated at par with a larger company, but even money-wise, here is the deal, right? If you get exceptional experience for 2 years, even if you're extremely money-minded, the third year, you will get much more money and you'll make up for the first 2 years, right? So the first 5 years of your career, what you do probably builds the foundation for the rest. The next 10 years, probably again, it applies that if you're moving at a pace, which even if you invest 2 or 3 years in a startup, which is very promising, you grow at a pace which is breathtaking, right? So I think these things can go along with the core DNA that, hey, this is what you get by being part of us. We are not going to say we are going to pay you the most, but we are going to set you up for being the most spectacular professional. Retaining, by once you attract them, please play by the word you said when you hired them. They should not get disappointed that I'm here, but I'm not learning anything. Then why did I come here, right? And play by the word of being honest to customer success, because no business is perfect. A business cannot be 100% on the time for every customer. That's not true if someone says that. So be honest in admitting if there are letdowns at times in front of the employee, saying that we failed, I failed, right? I think that's what will bring integrity and build the team if they see that they're getting what they were told. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. Sir, actually, Anupam sir, sir, Anupam sir, actually, you have.
Go ahead. Add just few points to add. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the whole story starts from identifying the critical roles which you want to hire a team member for. And if you are able to define that clearly, of course, in a startup, you won't have a very crisp role, but if you are able to tell the person who comes in that this is what you are expected to and this is what you are expected to deliver, the story starts from there. And then I think retention, another point I want to add is all about how do you align the organization and the individual's purpose. It has to be a purpose-driven selection. There has to be some alignment. There can't be a mismatch, unless you won't be able to, otherwise you won't be able to retain a person for long. And the rest of it is all about what is the elbow room you provide to a new person who comes into a new organization, which is a startup. What is the kind of openness you are showcasing? And that's why the culture becomes so relevant even in a startup. What is the level of innovation you respect and the creativity, opportunities which you give? And the most important, I believe, is how much are you able to listen to, as a founder, how much you are able to listen to the critical feedbacks even from your own team, which is what I call is a courage. How do you allow courage to speak up? I think these are a few additional stuff.
Thank you, Raju sir and Anupam sir. So actually, Anupam sir, he has already discussed why the skill of the team is very important while scaling up the startups. And there's the same question from then Abul Hazanat. He's asking, what are the tips on developing the skill of the team? Like he's asking some suggestions, sir. So I think this question is to Anupam Dasgupta, sir.
So skill development, again, it's not an easy task, but as long as a founder, you are setting apart some quality time to analyze how you can do the skill development of your team, I think that's where it starts, right? So I'm just sharing the way I do it. With my small team, I always try and keep an eye to be on track for the plan I had made for skill development of a professional. Yeah, for example, if I have hired a professional whose job is, let's say, marketing through LinkedIn and email. Yeah, simple example. I would always keep in mind that, is the person learning after 3 months? Would she or he come back and tell me that, hey, you know what? I didn't know the following things which I learned in the last 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Are they growing, and are the levels of learning progressive, right? Are they learning things which will help them in their journey truly? It will not just help the business make money, right? Business has to make money for everybody to survive, but the person also has to grow. So your initial blueprint on this is the profile of the person. And in a way, it's easier for a smaller team because you don't have 100 people to handle necessarily. You might have 25 people, right? And then you can probably just map them out and look at the profile and say that, hey, look, I think I can build a skill plan for this person and try and be on track and keep taking feedback. Yeah, because we are all human. A founder is not superhuman. You will have pressures, you deviate from the track along the way. But as long as you take feedback from the person, hey, let's have a monthly feedback every month where I give you feedback on what worked, what didn't. You give me feedback that are we on that skill and growth plan or not. Yeah. So I think documenting it in form of a plan with definite outcomes, milestone wise outcomes, and reviewing whether those outcomes are being met transparently is important in doing this. Now, if there's another angle to it, this is the investments on skill building, which is a journey which you have to be transparent with the person also at the beginning that, hey, we may not be able to give you all trainings and certifications which are very costly, but we'll bake it in the plan. We'll do it along the way as we can, as the company allows in terms of resources.
Thank you, Anupam sir. So I think it's almost 12 o'clock. We are short of time. So I think I want to conclude the session. So before concluding the session, I want to just ask the participants to give the feedback of this current session. So the link is already given in the chat box, and also still if you have questions, so the speaker details are already shared in the chat box, so you can reach out to them. And also if you have any help from the manager, also you can reach out to us through our social media apps. And also I have exciting updates for you. So this year pre-incubation mentoring program is applications are open. It is a 22 days programs. So the entrepreneurs like who are in the ideation stage and who wants the foundation support, so you can utilize these opportunities. And do not forget to follow us on social media, and do not forget to register for the next upcoming webinar. And I would like to thank both the speakers and also all the participants and my team for hosting the webinar. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rahalya. If I may,
Thank you very much.
Sorry to butt in at the last minute, but I think you mentioned business idea validation. I just want to call out that my company has a dedicated tech-enabled business idea validation service if anyone wants to avail of it.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, all the participants.
Thank you and all the best.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Bye.